So you like to go travelling, do you? Well, you won't want to go travelling after you see these 10 horror movies.
Plane! It's gonna blow up! It's gonna blow up!
I think most of us horror fans have went travelling once in their life, whether that be travel in the same country that you live in, or you're travelling abroad to a different country, a different continent. Wherever you're going, you've had a backpack on there and you've went and done something, whether it's good, silly or bad. We've all been there. So this is a list of 10 horror movies that are no particular order, not from worst to best, just 10 horror movies that will make you think twice if you want to go travelling. First up, we have Hostel from 2005. This is about a group of backpackers who want to go to Eastern Europe for a bit of pleasure. No longer is Amsterdam a place where people want to go. They want to go that bit further. They want to go to the extreme pleasure, and they're hearing about places in Eastern Europe that provide that type of pleasure. But unfortunately for them, they're not going to get the pleasure, they're going to get the pain. It was a shocking film for its time. It is 20 years old now. I think if you watch it today for the first time, you'd be like, it's okay. But I think back then, 20 years ago, there was a lot of films like Hostel that were coming out thick and fast. And this one stands head and shoulders above a lot of them because of the extreme gore and violence that was in it. Next up, we have Turistas from 2006, or Paradise Lost, depending on which country you're from. And it's about these groups of people who are in Brazil. They don't know each other, just a bunch of couples, etc. around. And all of them get their passports stolen when they're in Brazil and they're stranded. They're nowhere to go. So they all band together to try and figure out what's happened and try and get their passports back. But the reason that they've had their passports taken off of them is because they're stuck in an area where people are getting their organs taken from them and sold on the black market. So it's now up to them to try and get their passports back and get the hell out of there. If you're into your backwards horror films like Just Before Dawn or Wrong Turn or Deliverance, and if you're into those travelling horror films as well, like this movie, then I think you're going to love this one. The Ruins from 2008 is up next. This is a scary one because it's a place where these people are stranded, where nobody speaks English and there's nowhere to turn to. They go into these Mayan ruins that have got some sort of supernatural power on them. This group of young adults are stuck on this ruin and it's making them hallucinate. It makes them want to kill each other, and it's more psychological than it is physical.
I'm not okay. You keep saying I'm okay. I'm not okay.
Next, we've got Wolf Creek from 2005, one of the more popular ones on this list because it is a true story about Ivan Milat in Australia who kills backpackers. Doesn't matter where they're from, but these backpackers stumble upon this horrible man who pretends to help them with their coordinates, with their maps, because they're lost in the middle of nowhere, and he's the good Samaritan who's apparently going to help them out of this. Unbeknownst to them though, he is a crazy serial killer who goes around killing backpackers. Next up, we have The Green Inferno from 2013. This one's directed by Eli Roth. I spoke about this one recently, and it's about these activists who crash land in the Amazon rainforest in the jungle, and they are attacked and eaten by the people that they're trying to save. I don't know how much of this story would actually happen if you crash landed in a place like this, but I think it would put activists off even travelling anywhere near places like this. Next up, we've got Final Destination from 2000. Now, this one's different from the rest because the travellers in this film don't actually get to their destination. They didn't leave the place that they were leaving from. And I think the biggest issue with this one is most people travel by aeroplane. And in this film, there's an air disaster. I think a lot of films involving aeroplanes are a major problem for people who are scared of going on planes in the first place. But this one, for me, I watched this movie before I ever boarded a plane and it put me off flying for a long time, but obviously I had to go flying. But this one is the ultimate travelling movie where if you want to travel far, don't watch Final Destination. Next up, we've got Joyride from 2001, or Roadkill, depending on which country you're from. And this one is for all you homebodies out there who don't leave your own country. This one is a cross-country travelling horror film that makes you want to think twice about going on the highway. We call it the motorway in the UK. But if you go on the highway travelling for a long distance, and if you want to get yourself a CB radio and make fun of any of the truck drivers out there, don't do it. This one's a personal favourite of mine because I always wanted to go out on the road with my friends and have laughs and jokes and maybe even do prank phone calls on the CB radio. It's something that a lot of young people would love to do, but they shouldn't. Next, we've got The House of Eyes from 2006. I've decided to choose the remake of the original because I feel like when it comes to travelling horror films, the remake does it better than the original because it explores more of the vast area that they're stranded in, as well as going into little towns and villages that are abandoned because of the bomb testing. But this film just leaves you feeling so isolated and alone. It looks like the family are okay. They've got a caravan, they've got cars, they've got weapons. So they feel like they're safe. And that's what I like about this film, because they feel that they're safe, but they're not when they find out what's living in those hills. Chernobyl Diaries from 2012 is another example of that extreme tourism. It's more extreme than Hostel because they're not going to a place for sexual gratification. They're going to a place where they feel like it is deserted and isolated. There's nobody living there because it is where the Chernobyl disaster took place. Nobody can live there because of the radiation. That's why it's called extreme tourism, because people actually do go there to see the place. They have to wear masks. They've got all these little machines that can tell them how bad the radiation is and how long they can stay for. But in this one, it's more dramatized, of course, for the horror elements, because there are things, people living there that have been living there since the disaster happened. Last on the list, we have Midsommar from 2019, the only film on the list that I don't like, but because I'm recommending travelling horror films to you, I can't just recommend the ones that I absolutely love. There are ones out there that I don't like, but I know other people would benefit from, and I think Midsommar is one of those. I didn't benefit from it because it's not catered for me, but I think someone out there is going to like this film if they haven't seen it. But these people go to Sweden for the Midsummer Festival, and it's not your typical travelling horror film because it's more of a cult movie. There's not many supernatural elements to it. There's not too many horror elements to it. It's just a realistic take on extreme cultism. Cultism? Is that even a word? Either way, it's a disturbing one. So that is 10 horror movies that I believe that might put you off travelling if you haven't already travelled before, or even if you've travelled before, it still kind of wants to put you off travelling ever again. But is there any movie on this list that you think, nah, I can watch them and I feel happy going travelling? Or is there any other horror films that you feel like would stop me from wanting to go travelling? Leave your recommendations down below, guys. Let me know what you think of my list as well, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
Be right back!
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!